That stuff matters, carved in stone. Every stitch and every tone. Living, loving, grinding through all the nerdy things we do.
What's up, guys? Bean here with That Stuff Matters, episode 2. This is the intro, and this episode is, of course, brought to you by Shop Show Me, formerly Show Me Possibilities, but honestly, people got tired of writing possibilities on their checks, and we were like, you know what? We're just going to be Shop Show Me. So that's how that came about. What do we do here? If you don't know us, we started in apparel printing, and we do t-shirts, and that can be anything from screen printing to DTF to vinyl. We can do it all here. And we also do signs. As you can see in the background, I am currently printing some banners. So large format printing, we do that here. That can be as large as you want. We can come in and we can decorate your walls, or we can make banners that you're going to hang up around town. We also do embroidery. Embroidery here, we have multiple machines and hats, shirts, whatever you need. Happy to help with that. And laser engraving. So we make trophies, plaques, and awards, as well as using our lasers to cut fabric for our embroidery business. That's enough about Shop Show Me. And what is That Stuff Matters? I still get that question a lot. I don't really know. I know what I want it to be. I want it to be a place where I can share about us, about me, about our family. And it's just my wife in here currently, and my son comes into work, and then Haven will come in as well when needed. And Emerson comes in and watches the iPad. We do a lot. We have a lot of fun, and we banter quite a bit. You know, we argue about what's for dinner, even though we know we're probably going to have one of the same 5, 6, 7 meals that we always have, because that's what the kids enjoy. Shout out to my wife, who is always willing to run a restaurant out of our home and make 4 to 5 different meals based on what people want. I hate that for her, but she is a great human who would rather see her kids eat than just complain. I want to show you all that stuff, but I also want to help. I want to help people. That's always been a passion of mine. I started a gym. If you don't know that, we're attached to a little gym, and it's not a commercial gym, okay? This is a powerlifting gym. It was what I love. It's what I enjoy. But along the way, it morphed and grew and became something a little different, and it's a place for like-minded folks to come hang out and feel comfortable. We've thought a lot about, do we need the gym? And I will always have a gym. I love it. But the answer is always been yes, because there are people who come in here who enjoy lifting, but they enjoy the home away from home. It's somewhere that they can go. They feel safe. They might work out at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. It gives them somewhere to go, something to do. And even more so, it gives them, we really cheer for people. That's why we kind of grew it the way it did. And when you walk in, there's a huge banner and it says, "We're rooting for you." And that's something that we've always said. I've put it on t-shirts. I have talked about it on the podcast I had 2 years ago. We are rooting for you. Man, that's huge. You ever had somebody cheer for you? You ever had somebody be like a hype man, and build you up, pick you up? That stuff matters. So I want to help people. And part of that is here and in my community. I'm not a rich man. I don't have money I can donate to things like I wish I could. But I look around and I see places and things that need help. And I know I can show up. it's the one thing I've really been good at my whole life. I can show up and I can help. And that can be in a number of ways, but I can just be a part. I'm willing. And we talk about that in episode 2. So I hope you all can see that. I hope you all are encouraged to help whatever organization you look around in your town and you see needs it, and just be active. It's one thing to be a member, and Lord knows every organization needs those members who just show up and help at an event. But be an active member. Try to be there as much as you can. I know life is busy, and it's that way for everyone, and it's tough to get away. But I'm telling you, a lot of these organizations need it. They need help. So if you know of an organization or a business that you want to highlight, come on. We'll pull up a chair. I want to talk. I want to hear about it. How can we help? How can we share so people can hear about it? I don't have the biggest following in the world, but I've been known to share a meme or two. And over the course of, the last 5 years or so, we've gained a pretty good sized following, and I appreciate every single one of you. I will say that as you do or try to do good, there will be people who won't like the way you're doing it. And we've already experienced that. Some negativity from the podcast, and that's okay. We only have good intentions. We have no hard, we don't lean one way or the other, and we don't only promote one thing or the other. So we're here for everybody, and I want to hear from you. So really, if you know someone, you know of an organization, you know of a business, and you just want to come on and talk, I'm ready. I am ready. I am awkward and nerdy and really kind of weird, but I'd love to listen, and I'll share all about it. So come on. This episode, really fun time. Ian came in and I didn't know what to expect. I had some notes of what I wanted to cover, but I also knew that there was a lot more to Ian. I've known Ian most of my life, and there's a lot to him. So just like anyone else, we are not perfect, but the willingness to be open and share about our failures and how we are battling, that's important from people. And Ian is specifically really good at that in this episode. So we talk about everything. A lot of shout outs on this episode for local businesses. Now, of course, there are businesses we miss. I know there are tons and tons in the area, but some really cool ones that we see. They're just kind of sprinkled throughout the episode. I hope you guys enjoy. If you have ideas, they've been reaching out. They've been sharing ideas with me on stuff they'd like to do. I love it. Let's figure out a way to make it work. Let's figure out a way. So without further ado, episode 2, That Stuff Matters, with special guest, Mr. Ian Thudium.
High school king with fire in his veins. Football glory carved in local stains. Hunting woods like he stalks the night. Antlers on the wall in the flickering light. Thudium's rain cuts through the air. A roar of vengeance without a care. Guardian of blades and the spinning steel. Blue pride trembles with the force he wields.
Welcome to That Stuff Matters, episode 2 of the podcast. I am sitting here with one of my local favorites in the area, Mr. Ian Thudium.
What's up,
Ian,
Nathan?
Hey, thank you for coming on today.
I appreciate being here.
I have a lot of good memories of you from... What year did you graduate?
94, class of 94.
Yeah. So when I was probably in middle school-ish, like I was going to those football games, and it was like Ian Thudium was one of those names that I saw, a big big part of the team.
Now, were you in
dominating?
Were you in my sister's class or you're behind her?
You're behind her.
You're behind her. Courtney was in. Was Courtney a year behind?
Yep. Courtney's you're behind her
Yep.
too. But I mean, a lot of good memories. All the stuff you did, like helping out with quarterback club. You've helped me out here. You've helped Main Street out. We will talk about all that stuff. Even the stuff like when you were working at Living Well. Like I remember I bought a heater off of you, I believe. So
Well, we sold a bunch of heaters, that's for sure. That was a
Yeah.
crazy time in my life right there. The old Living Well company.
Living Well.
Yeah. I just touched base with a couple of those guys. You might remember Dylan and Mark that worked there. They
Yeah.
were in top. Yeah. I just touched base with them the other day. I just picked up that contract with that building, and I was mowing it the other day, and I took a big selfie and sent it to him and said, back at the Living Well.
Memories, huh?
Yeah.
The Blue Pride Lawn Care is, over the years, I see you more and more and more at more odd times of the night and the day. You're like always working. How did Blue Pride Lawn Care start?
Well, let's see. Blue Pride, well, we can get into a lot of stuff there. Blue Pride Lawn Care started because of course, we'll get into a little of that, but I got into some trouble, had a stint in my life there that things weren't going so well. I got out of jail and started trying to get back in the community. I was in a local program here called the Treatment Court Program. Some people call it the Drug Court Program. You have to have a job, and I tried to get back in the community and I'd done Thudium construction when I first, got out of high school. I found that, I just, any job that I ever had, I always tried to improve on it and, had my own ideas and I kind of wanted to implement them. So it was kind of, working for somebody else was always tough for me.
Yeah.
So my son and Mason Swift had started this lawn care company, and Mason had moved on. Lane had graduated, and they weren't really doing it. Lane was still here for the summer, and I asked Lane. I said, "Hey, son, you mind if Dad mows with you?" And of course, I couldn't let it alone. I had to kind of make it into my own.
Your own.
And that first summer we were just mowing yards, and so I think this is our 5th year. And so Lane and I just mowed yards together, and actually got real lucky. My ex-wife, and things were tough.
Mm-hmm.
Things were tough for me. My ex-wife actually bought Lane a mower. We used that for the first season, and that kind of got us kicked off. And then the next year, as Lane, went into welding school and wasn't able to mow anymore, I took it on, and Blue Pride is that's what I know.
Yeah.
I'm from Brookfield. I'm not from anywhere else. I was born somewhere else, but I'm from here.
Was that like the first name that came to mind? Blue Pride Lawn Care?
That was it.
Yeah.
That was it. I had to try to get it before the Parn snatch it up.
Yeah, they have like a trademark on Blue Pride. I feel
They
like.
should. It's amazing.
And it makes sense though, because Blue Pride, you have a lot of pride in your community and in the work you do.
Mhm.
I just see some of your videos and these patterns you're mowing in the grass. It's like a ASMR thing. Like I'll get on TikTok and watch those things.
Well, I know you're kind of a YouTuber. You like to scroll around, and so you probably see some of those videos. And I'm ignorant about watching them, and it's one of those things. And we have, and I know we were going to talk about competition, and in the lawn care business, and that's one of the things. We have the fellows from Marceline Kelly Lawn Care, and we have the boys from over at Buckland, Mark Finney and those guys. And I always told Lane worked for them originally. That's where he got the idea. And I always told Lane, I said, if we can mow as good as those guys, we're doing a great job. And so we just continue to try to push ourselves and do a better job. In a small community like this, there's plenty of work. Lawn care is one of those things that not only is the people that live here getting older, where they can't get out and mow anymore.
Sure.
It's also a thing where the machinery has outpriced a lot of people. So we're able to offer something. And the one thing that, we offer the lawn care, obviously, but we try to offer a little something extra, try to edge the sidewalks, make sure we get things blowed off, make sure. So we always say, and, I say it in my videos sometimes, pride is in our name.
Yeah.
So,
Well, you
we
can
try
see
to
it in your
take
work.
pride in our work. Yeah. And this time of year, it's a challenge because, you literally could be mowing every 3 days.
Yeah.
And, everybody on your list, you would love to be able to mow the day they want it mowed. Everybody on your list, all 60, 70 yards, you would love to be able to mow on Friday. So it's beautiful for the Mother's Day weekend. And it's just not possible when the weather gets like this, but you go in there and you do your absolute best you can on that day, whether the yard ended up being tall before you got there or whatever. We try to go in there and do the best job. And I have a great employee with Tristan Izard, and he's absolutely just like me, where he wants to walk away. He wants to be able to take a picture of it and show it to somebody or a video. And
Yeah.
so that's what
rewarding.
we do. Yeah.
I'm glad you brought it up, because we were talking about competition, and in a small town, it's inevitable there's going to be people doing what you're doing.
Mhm.
But it is really something where, we should all work together.
Mhm.
And I can see that's something that, you definitely believe in. There's plenty of work to go around. And do you guys ever communicate between the organizations?
We do,
businesses?
all of us. I mean, if I, not so much with Kelly, because I don't know them.
Mhm.
I absolutely love their work. I mow a place. They mow Life Care up there and do a great job. And I mow a place right next to it. And every time I go up there, I'm like, wow, they do a great job. And but with Mark Finney, I talked to them. Jason Stanfield, I talked with him. John Osterman, I talked with them. Dylan, I can't think of Dylan's last name. He works up at the Helm Street. Every once in a while, he does a little bit of mowing,
Yeah.
so I stop and talk to Dylan, and it's great because there is plenty of yards out there to do, and we actually swap back and forth. If just like for instance, Maddox just purchased a piece of ground down there at the plaza,
Right.
and I mowed that for a couple of years when Jeff owned it, and now that I don't, Jason mows for Maddox at home, so now he mows it, so.
Yeah.
It's no big deal. It seems it's one of those deals, and I've been fortunate in life. When one thing has fallen off, there's always two more,
Mhm.
because it's one of those deals. It's like the collection plate at church. You don't know why when you put $10 in there, somehow you get 30 back. It just happens,
Yeah.
so it's one of those deals, you don't get upset about it. You just move on.
No, I mean, real quick, shout out to Maddox. They're doing all sorts of stuff down there. That's awesome for the
great.
community.
It's crazy.
I mean, wow. That's
And
really
Jason
cool.
does a great job of mowing their grass. It looks great.
I just, man, I love that attitude and the outlook you have on that. That's something I wish everyone really bought into. What's for you though? Like, what's the hardest part of the business? I mean, it's definitely not something you can do 12 months out of the year. So
I don't want to do it 12 months out of the year for one thing. I want to go waterfowl hunting as much as possible during the winter time. So I kind of plan this thing out for that, shout out to my wife. Thank you for taking care of me in the wintertime, honey. But the hardest thing, my hardest thing about my business is my shortcomings. I'm financially neurodivergent when it comes to
Mhm.
finances. I can't figure, I'm probably that anyway, but I'm not good at it. If Ian's got cash in his pocket, he ain't gonna spend it,
I'm the same.
but the great thing about the lawn care business is I've gotten to a point where I love spending money on the lawn care stuff.
There you go.
So as long as I'm
Investing back.
putting it back in, and dealing with customers isn't really a problem with me because I kind of, through working on myself for the last 5 or 6 years, have had a couple things that have worked really good for me. I understand that feelings are feelings. I feel them and I move on.
Mhm.
So if somebody gets on my case or something like that, I don't have to get upset about it. It used to be something that was really a struggle for me. People say that the hardest thing about having a business is your customers. I think I see my customers as partners.
It's a great way to look at it.
I have great partners. Without the partners I have, like Archery Zone, small, TJ and his wife out there. Thank the Lord for them. I mean, TJ, I bought that commercial mower from him, and he told me that day, it comes with a warranty, and if something goes wrong, I'll take care of you if you want to buy this mower.
Okay.
And with a handshake, you know, we made that deal. And I think it was, you know, something simple went wrong. And next thing you know, TJ's at my job site with a trailer, picks the mower up, takes it back, fix it in 5 minutes, comes back, drops it back off, and I'm back mowing.
That
Yeah.
right there is why small town business is so cool, because you don't always get that with like a large company. So when you shake a hand with somebody, that means something to me, and I think it really shines in small towns.
Well, you got a lot of partners out there. I mean, it's you know, TJ, I would consider Break Time as one of my partners, you know. I mean, I'm there every morning gassing up, and the people are always there with a smile, you know, and each one of my customers, like I said, is a partner in my business. If I'm going to take pride in it, they take pride in it. You know, if they see me smiling about the job I do, they're going to smile about the
Yeah,
job
for
I do,
sure.
and they're going to tell the next person, because that's really, in a small town, you can put up all the advertisements you want, mess one person up, steal from one person, you know, do them wrong, and you might as well tear down all your advertisements, because
Yeah.
that word of mouth is going to go around that fast. And you know, I have been fortunate in Brookfield because I have in my past done a lot of damage to Brookfield. You know, I've it took me a long time to realize that I was doing that. I felt like I was always just doing it to myself, but I was actually probably doing it to the whole community. And that's one reason why I try to give back as much as possible. So I feel like not only do I owe it to the town, I owe it to the people here, you know, but also I owe it to myself to make this place better, because I got grandkids now, you know. I'm getting old, man.
Well, and people look up to you, you know. You probably don't even realize it, but I know they do. And as you brought that up, let's dive into it. You volunteer a lot, and that word is volunteer. I mean, you're not getting paid, you know, what you're worth for all these things. I'll see you at 10 o'clock at night. You know, you're out here watering stuff and taking care of stuff. What are some organizations that are important to you and that you help out?
Well, every organization in Brookfield is important to me. For one thing, do I have time to help every one of them? No, probably not. Does every one of them want my help? No, probably not. You know, a lot of them haven't. My biggest motivation for volunteering began with the fact that I owed a debt to our county. I was convicted on drug charges here. And when I got into the treatment core program and I signed my name to say I would accomplish these things in order to get this stuff removed off my record, which was a big thing for me. Like what I talked about hunting, that's one of the biggest parts of my life. Had I not went through that program and done what I did, I would have not had my hunting rights today. Wow. So I started that volunteer stuff because I owed a debt to society. What I didn't realize at the time, was how much I would get in return for doing that. Not only through the attaboy Ian, the honks down Main Street as you're watering, the people saying thank you, all that stuff. It's here. Right. And it's right here. It's helped heal me, you know, as a person, and allowed me to be a better person. I love these flowers. I was telling people as they come by, you know, we've watered them twice this year. And for everybody out there that's looking at those flowers and want to come and tell Ian how good they look right now, go out to Senate Bill 40 and let them know how good it looked, because they got them this far. All I've done so far is put about a couple gallons of water on each one of them. And I'll continue to do that. And I've gotten lucky over the years on that deal. People stop and what do you do? How do you make them flowers look so good?
You're a wizard.
I don't know. They're like, well, what's this flower? What's that flower? I said, if I started going through these baskets and figuring out what this flower was, what that flower was, what they needed, what they didn't need, I would kill them. What I do is I don't know anything. I put some of that blue stuff in the water every once in a while, hit them with the water every night. My wife drives, or, you know, I got my grandkids with me, or my dad drives. It's just not me volunteering. Every time I volunteer, I'm either helping another volunteer or I have another volunteer with me. I can't water these flowers by myself.
I just assumed you had this natural green thumb, that you just knew it all.
I mean, I don't know anything. It may be natural. I would lean on miracle.
Yeah.
That might be more. It's a miracle that these things make it.
You said that you don't know anything, and I wish everyone kind of picked up on that attitude, because that is like my biggest belief. You don't have to know everything perfectly. You just start doing, and you are learning as you go, and you have to be willing to step outside of that comfort zone and keep working, and those failures are how you learn.
Well, I think the biggest word that you said there, the word that I caught on all that you said there, was willing. willingness. A willingness to try gets you a long ways, especially in this era where we can pick up our phone and we can go on YouTube and we can pull up a video to show us step by step how to do something. All you got to do is be willing to try it.
Right.
You know, with working on cars, with working on my mowers, you know, I mean, every time something, you know, little simple goes wrong with the mower. And I pick this up from these younger kids is where I pick it up from. Tristan, my employee, he's over there as soon as something ticks or bangs or something like that, he's on his phone. I think it's this is what it says it is, you know, and boom, boom, boom. Next thing you know, you're down on the ground, you got it fixed and you're moving on.
It's a great time, you know, for people that are just willing
Mm-hmm.
to do anything.
And this volunteer work, that's another thing. Be willing, get into action. Don't get on, you know, don't get on the Facebook and you know, you can get on there and complain if you want, but does that really ever solve anything?
Never.
It doesn't solve anything. Get into action. You know this and I know this because you volunteer almost as much as I do, maybe more. And the people that we volunteer with, no offense, because they're soldiers and been soldiers for a long time, but they're old.
Yeah.
I mean, we're getting some age on us and they're old. And you know what? We need the 40 somethings, the 30 somethings that are out there. And I know that you're busy. I know that it's so busy out there and it's so tough, but you don't understand what, you know, 2 hours
Right.
get you, you know, even if it's once a month, it's amazing. Just if it's setting up tables somewhere or something like that. And those are the people that we need, because not only do we need their back and their help, we need their ideas.
100%. And I think that is so key what you said. As you become more active in the community, you will realize that a large portion of the active members in any organization are aging. And it's not, and I'm nothing negative, but you know, they do get tired of the same fight year in, year out, and the same burdens of doing the majority of the work. And as you stated, we need more people being active. You know, a pet peeve of mine is when people are just on Facebook complaining. You don't show up at any of the town meetings, any of the committees, any of those groups, but yet here you are online complaining and wanting things. That's not how it works. You just pick what's important to you, pick a single topic, a single organization, and you devote your time to it. And it doesn't have to be hours upon hours. Helping at a single event, you know, a good example, Damon Neff, who runs Apex, he will show up at these events, and he doesn't really want to be like a treasurer or vice president or anything like that. He just wants to show up and help, pick up chairs, put stuff away. And we need stuff like that.
Is he that?
He's jacked out of his mind.
Okay. He's always there to help pick up chairs.
Yeah.
I mean, at the end, just like at our Main Street auction or another auction I was at, I was like, who's this guy? And he's picking up tables and chairs and putting them on. I'm like, I've seen this guy around, but I don't know him. And that's the main thing. I got lucky in a sense where I had years and years of volunteer work in my family. You know, my Uncle Bill, my Aunt Shane, my mother, you know, my dad, you know, it was instilled in us from my grandmother, Emily, and she gave back. You know, she played the organ at 2 or 3 churches every Sunday. And anytime there was something, she was willing to go out there and put her hands in the soil like Marcia does and plant flowers. And you know, that's the important thing. And when you get involved, you'll find yourself in a spot where you don't feel like you can walk away from it.
Yeah.
When you get invested in the people that are volunteering with you, you know, Mr. Hart, you know, Marcia, you know, these people that you've spent your whole life with, you know, that they're out there at whatever age they are, old enough. I'm not going to throw out any numbers, but old enough that they could be just as easy sitting at home watching, you know, MSNBC or Fox or something like that and not doing it. But they're out there because they realize that, you know, these politics that we spend so much time on in the national theater really only matter in the local community.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to. I've often thought, man, Ian, you should run for commissioner, or Ian, you should go, you know, try and be on the city council or something like that. What I realized over the last few years, I have a lot more power right where I'm at. because I can say a lot more and do a lot more where I'm
Say
at
what's on
than
your
when I'm
mind,
tied down to rules and regulations and all that. Ian's out here. He ain't got no rules and regulations. I'm going to say what I want to say when I want to say it. And, and if I say it once, it doesn't get done, then it's time to get in there with some people and get it done yourself.
Yeah. You touched on it, and I just want to say it one more time. I really do think, you're a really shining example of perseverance and consistency. I know that you did struggle in your past, some places you're not proud of, but the way you turn that around and you have devoted yourself to helping multiple organizations is really admirable.
Well, I appreciate that. Well, it's all part of, in recovery is a lot. Since I've been in recovery and I've been working on myself for the last 5 years, I've realized there's some things that transfer over all lines, right? Mm-hmm. Service work, that's a big portion of recovery. Another thing is that we talk about in recovery all the time. If you're not moving forward, you're moving backwards, yeah. And that's where it's really important is just keep moving forward. You ain't got to take big steps.
Yes.
You don't have to take big steps. You just don't have to go backwards. You set your feet and you move forward, just like with, with that quarterback club and the stuff that we did down at the football field, that you guys did down at the football field. Amazing stuff, but it was little steps. It's like Main Street up there. 5 years ago, when I started with Main Street, those guys come in and they gave us all that. They told us all that stuff. Oh, this is going to happen. And look at Washington, Missouri, and look at Chillicothe, and look at Warrensburg, and look at all these places. And I'm looking at them. I'm like, boy, that is really great. And then they started telling us how we were going to do it. And it was just little bitty tiny steps. And I'm going back to our meetings after, these guys have left. And I'm like, oh, we can't do that. We got to bring dozers in here. We got to do this.
Yeah.
You got to do that. And look at downtown now.
Right.
Almost every building is full down there. 5 years ago, there wasn't half that many buildings full down there.
This strip has changed so much. And I know it needs a lot of work, but it's not like the city isn't going to fix it. It is a bunch of individuals that are just putting their heart into their little block, their little corner.
Yeah.
And that's how you make the whole improve.
Oh, yeah. What they've done down there at Raspberries, amazing stuff down there. It looks beautiful. Yesterday, the whole block was packed down there. I mean, I could go down to each and every building. Dave Fuhrer, what him and his daughter have done there, Maddie has done. It's amazing how, that was just an eyesore, man. It was just an eyesore. So was the other, so was Raspberries. And look at it now. It's amazing. Yeah. And to think from where it almost makes me emotional today thinking about that fire and where it's at now from that fire, because we sat down there and we thought the whole town's going down.
Yeah.
And then, and then Bernie and the boys from Chillicothe and the guys from Marceline came in here, the firefighters, and they came in here and they put that fire out, and you're sitting there thinking they're dumping all this water, and then you're thinking, maybe they should just let it go. Maybe they should just, because, what was it? I mean, it wasn't much, but to think that them saving that block has turned out to what it's been. It's amazing. And, shout out to those guys. I give them a shout out all the time, the firefighters and our police department. They're amazing. They always stop and talk to me downtown. The police officers always stop every night, or waving, honking, and I appreciate that. Cause it's different. Downtown's different than when we were kids. Yeah. It's not as full at night as it used to be when we were young.
Man,
it's full during the day, which is the best part about it.
Yeah, that is. I was just talking to my wife though. Like, I wish we could bring back like a monthly Main Street cruise or something, because, that experience of Dragon Main and not having cell phones to contact really anyone, you had to just go find them and, hang out, and being in town was an experience, and that has gone. But like you said,
I think it's coming.
It's coming back.
I think it's coming back. I mean, these people made this investment because they truly think it's coming back. So if they truly think it's coming back and they're running the businesses, it's coming back.
Yeah.
There's going to be people down there, in the evening time. And there's not as many bars downtown as there used to be, when I was a kid. So maybe that's one reason there's not many cars down there. Yeah. But it's coming back because they're going to do it. The businesses downtown will take care of themselves. And you know what? All this other stuff, once, it's turning the tap down here, and people see that, you know, what is going on is continuing to get better, and it's going to progress, then all these other things are going to fall. They're going to fall in, just like I'm talking about with that Main Street. When they said, this is how you do it, the Main Street program, and I'm sitting there going, no, this is not how you do it. You do this with cranes, track hose, dozers, you know, all this stuff. And then it's just a process that we're in. And unfortunately, you know, with all these rural communities, that kind of fell away. We're not the only one. We're just we're just one of thousands and thousands of rural communities that during the 80s and 90s that kind of, you know, the slow trickle off where people moved to the highways, you know, and the byways, you know, to get closer to, you know, transportation or whatever else, you know, where the masses were. Well, we got a reverse migration going. Yep. Masses are coming back up north to Brookfield.
It's great to see. It's really encouraging. You know, as another business owner, it's almost like when you see your neighbor mow their yard, yeah, you need to go mow your yard. So you want to invest in your corner of the world and make it a better place for sure. You know, an organization that I think you help out with that I kind of wanted to talk about was the Tillman House.
Tillman House.
I don't even think people know that exists.
Yeah, Lynn County Historical Society Tillman House Museum up here on Livingston Street. It's something. And,
really
and I tell you how we got involved in that. Christy and I, we got involved in that because that is an extremely old house. Go back, we kind of lean into one of my hobbies here. Christy and I went to a meeting of theirs because I wanted to probe around the area that they own there, try to find one of those old outhouses or privies that I like to dig up to find the old bottles. And I needed to go to one of their meetings to do that. Well, at the very first meeting, they were talking about what are we going to do with the stuff in the museum? Where are we going to put it? Because this is failing. And so I immediately reached in my pocket. I was like, how much is the membership? You know, and hey, just so you guys know, if you want to mail, you want to be a member of the Lynn County Historical Society, it's $20. You know,
help them out.
Yeah, we could use your help. So I reached in my pocket. I was like, here's Christy's membership. Here's my membership. Me and Christy are like, we got to get involved with this. We got to help out. And it's a deal. It's insane if you go up there and you go to one of their meetings, because these are literally, you know, women and a few men that are got some years on them. I'm talking about some years, you know, and they have done God's work up there. I mean, this stuff is on the wall because they put it on the wall. It's written down because they wrote it down in a book, you know, and we're not talking about, you know, we're not talking about this stuff's down in a computer somewhere and you can just look at it. No, people have brought stuff to them. Yep. They have organized it the best they can and they've put it up on the wall.
And there's really cool stuff in there.
Oh, there's great stuff in there, especially not just Brookfield.
Right.
Buckland, Meadville. If it's in Lynn County, it's represented in our museum.
And I'll be honest, I wasn't really aware of what it was or where it was. But they have some of these kids from school will come down and work shifts. And my kids were able to do that. And my kids came home and they're like, "What, Dad, what is this? What about this? You never told me about this." And I'm like, I don't even know some of those things about the area.
Yeah, I think all your kids went through there last year.
Yeah.
Or not all of them. Some of them were already graduated, but yeah, they came through there last year when we had the Smithsonian come through and all the kids, you know, came up there and helped out. And it was awesome to have those kids in there. I know that some of our ladies were a little concerned about, you know, let's protect the stuff in there. And I had the same speech to whether it was Meadville, Marceline, Brookfield, Buckland, whoever came. I had the same speech when we got through the door. I said, listen, you're not going to find a Nintendo in there or a PlayStation. You're not going to find an iPad in there or a computer. I said, what you are going to find is a lot of Lynn County history. And I want you to know that some very fine people have taken up a great majority of their time in order to put it on a wall. Be careful with it and have fun. If you have a question, ask. And it was amazing. Yeah. Caitlin and I and a few of us, we volunteered up there while those things were going through. And you can't imagine the things that kids find in there that you were like, I didn't even know that was there. I didn't even know it was there.
Packed. It's packed with stuff.
It's packed, yeah. And we just got a room re-sheetrocked.
Oh, nice.
Because we're hoping to display, do a new display, have a room where we can kind of switch it up, maybe quarterly, maybe monthly, depending on what we got, and have a room that's just wrapped around maybe one subject,
Wow.
and so that's, we're trying to think of new ways to give back. I'm currently, Christy and I have been talking about maybe doing an appraisal day, maybe getting some of these people, these antique people around town, Lisa down there, Mr. Lloyd, that could come and do some appraisal if people want to bring their
Cool.
antiques in and,
that'd
and
be
have a
nice.
look, and we won't charge very much, maybe $5 or something like that, or maybe just a goodwill donations. Most of the time in Brookfield, if you just put out a goodwill donation, the people are willing to give.
Sure.
And so we're kind of excited about that. So be looking ahead to that. Check out my Facebook page, and we will. Tillman House, the Tillman House is the Facebook page that we use. I know we have about 20 of them. Caitlin's working on getting a few of those knocked off because, it's one of those organizations where different people have taken over at different times.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like there's a Facebook page this person set up, and one that this person set
That
up.
can be confusing, but
It is, but
what's the best way someone could donate to the Tillman House?
Best way for someone to donate to the Tillman House would be to find our Facebook page.
Facebook.
And you
Start
find
there.
you find our Facebook page, and it'll have the information on how to donate, how to be a member. We do.
Do-do.
We have membership drives a couple times a year where we send out letters to people that are already members, for them to pay their dues for the next month. But really, that's something that's in the works. We are currently trying to get set up in order to do bingo
Oh,
at
nice.
one of our events, so we can have a bingo set up. Because really, right now, I mean, I could just be 100% honest. We're broke.
I know it's an organization that needs help.
We're broke, and we haven't done enough really in order to not be broke. We really haven't made the move to the county. We feel like there's some things that we have to get together before we can go to the county and ask for, funds or go to the city and ask for funds. And, everything up there is donated. We have a lot of stuff up there. Things are just expensive. I mean, we got a great big old house that needs a lot of work. It needs a lot of work, and we need volunteers with ideas on how to do it. More than we need money.
Yeah.
More than we need money is we need volunteers that are willing to say, this might be a viable option. Because just me up there saying, I'm just an old football player who loves hunting, I mean, I'm not, there's people out there that are better at this than I am.
Well, and I think that's so important. A lot of times you can feel like you can't contribute. Like, how could I be of any difference? I don't have money. I don't have, a lot of things at my disposal. But just showing up, just being willing to show up and say, how can I help? Can I, do this, do that? That is huge. For an organization.
These ladies that have been doing it forever. I mean, when young people show up and are, willing to do some work, it fires them up. Now they're rejuvenated. Hey, let's move on this. Let's do a little something different. Besides, if not, you get to the point where you're just scared you're going to lose it.
Yeah.
And, operating from a position of fear and being scared, that you're going to, that's not a good spot.
No.
That's not a good spot. So you need people in there, that you can at least say, well, I got enough people to get the job done.
Right.
And that's really handy. And that it is important. It is important. I know that we're not displaying things the way it should be displayed, and we're not preserving things the way, because the mission statement, the way I see it, of any museum type thing like this is one, you have the history, oral and written, and number two is you display it properly. And number three, the one thing that we're not failing on, we just don't have the know-how and the space to do it, is preservation.
Yeah.
I sometimes get things like I had a guy came to my house and brought me I think one of the original football field. I don't know if you know it. Niall's got the picture now. It's one of them yard long pictures. And it was out there where the new substation is.
Oh,
that was
yes.
One of the original football fields was out there. Nobody had a picture of it. This guy just shows up at my house. Hey, look at this.
Wow.
And And I'm like, I'm looking at it and I'm looking at the back. I flip it over. I'm like, holy crap, it's like 1913 or something like
Amazing.
that. And I'm like, I called Niall, and at that time they were playing baseball there. It was a football field and a baseball field. And I called Niall. He goes, we've been looking for a picture for that forever. And I ended up donating it to the school because I thought they could preserve it.
Yeah.
Where if we just hang it on the wall up there, it was already in bad shape. So,
Well, something really cool. You bring that up through the quarterback club and the school. Something they've been trying to do more of is they will take the senior class for the football team, and they'll actually take them on a tour of all the locations where football used to be played in Brookfield, and just to see some of the those ghosts of the past.
Well, that's that
is
oral
really
history.
Cool.
That's that oral history. I mean, you think about of the United States as we are now. The majority of people being on the ground in North America, the majority of that's oral history.
Mm-hmm.
We have to be able to tell it to the next generation.
You have to.
So that's great. I didn't know Niall was doing that, but and they were doing that. You guys been doing that with the quarterback club. That's great.
Yeah.
Because they have to. I mean, we got is there 4 different football field sites here in Brookfield,
Yeah.
something like that?
You'd
I
have to
can't
ask
name them
Niall.
all. Oh yeah, he'd know it.
He wants to start the Blue Pride Museum and kind of be the curator of around that. But
He's
there's
getting
some
close.
really cool facts.
He's getting close. Going to be retiring for too long.
He's getting closer and closer.
Yeah.
Man, we're just starting out, obviously on this podcast, but a segment that really my daughter, she says it all around the house all the time, is say it with your chest. And it's just, in my mind, what we want this to be is something that, you really feel passionate about. So given the opportunity, what's something you just want to say with your chest? It really needs to be said. And I'm just springing this on
I
you.
may have already said it. Volunteer work is paramount here in Brookfield, and the fact that you have power that you don't know you have. You don't have to be, on the city council. You don't have to be a county commissioner. You don't have to have a title.
Mm-hmm.
You can do these things, and you can say these things, but you gotta say them in the right way. Facebook is not that spot. There's some concerns that you can voice on Facebook. I mean, we have an open forum for a reason.
Yep.
And use it. But we've never accomplished anything by complaining.
Right.
We have to get into action, have that willingness, first
Mm-hmm.
off, willingness. And then once you have that willingness, willingness is really an action word. I mean, if you're willing, that means you're willing to get into action and willing to do something. There's a lot of things that I could set and, this is a problem, that is a problem, but
Couldn't we all? Yeah.
really, Brookfield's not a problem. We've had some neglect over the years, and that's not due to any one person or any one, committee. The one thing that pops into my head right now is unity.
Mm-hmm.
Unity. We have a lot of
Love
committees. We have a lot of different organizations with different volunteers, at different organizations have volunteers, and everybody is passionate about theirs.
Mm-hmm.
And I get that. And you should be. But the cohesiveness and the unity is what's going to save Brookfield and going to take us to the next generation. And it's going to make Brookfield as good as it was when we were kids. I honestly think that we got lucky, man.
Yeah.
We got lucky. I think that, not to steal one from the current president, but I think the golden age of Brookfield is to come. I think we saw a good glimpse of it when we were kids. When we could come in when the street lights turned on, and we could get off the school bus and jump on our bike and ride to the pool, or we could ride to the park and, all that. Brookfield is still that safe. We need these kids out here running around. You should have seen the park yesterday. I don't know if you drove by.
I didn't.
That park was packed, man.
Really?
Oh, there was kids everywhere.
I love it.
And that's great. And you know what? I live over here by what they like to call, the kids call Triangle Park. It's
Mhm.
Joyce's park.
Yeah.
But it's just been packed. Pickleball, basketball, and I'm over there watching the kids play basketball. And yesterday it was crazy. I was sitting there watching, and there was this young lady that I see walking down the street with her basketball all the time. And I don't know if she's a senior. And if you watch this, you know who you are because you're the only girl up there playing. And you're talented. I'm just telling you right now, I'm going to call the high school. If you're still in high school, somebody's going to know your name because I've been watching you. And my wife and I have been watching you over there, and you're talented. If you're not on the basketball team, you need to get to the basketball team. And that's these kids are what it's all about. We have so many programs for kids. The YMCA does such a great job out there. I hadn't been involved for a few years because, my kids have gotten older, but now have grandkids. Little Zeke, my little mowing buddy, he's big. Lately, he's big on the people's elbow. When Grandpa's on the couch, he gets in there, gets horizontal on me, just flying in. But he's been in the Y programs. He was in the flag football program, and we just had a blast with it.
Yeah, I think that is something that doesn't get talked about enough. Is we could complain about Brookfield or whatever small town you're from in America, and you may not like it. You may not like some of the things about it. But if you really want to start to change, the perception of it and help the community as a whole, if you change the experience for the youth, that youth remembers that as they age, and it becomes a more important place for them.
Mm-hmm.
So now as they get older and they can contribute, they're more likely to volunteer, to donate, to be a part of all of the events that happen in a community because they remember those good times.
Lead through example.
Yeah.
Right.
I remember when I was a kid and, the summer festival,
Summer fun days.
Fun days. Yeah.
Yeah.
The 3-on-3 was huge. You had the carnival, you had all this stuff. And then I felt like the 3-on-3 kind of went away. And that was one reason that, I kind of wanted to go back in there and help bring that back because I love basketball and seeing the kids out there.
I just thought it was because you were a great basketball player.
I was never good at any sport.
Oh, that's not true. That's not true. I watched you play football.
But I love them. I love them all. And sports teach you life lessons that you just can't learn. And some kids don't have the home life to learn some of those life lessons. And sports, they're essential as you're young.
Lead by example. You do a great job of that because where you see it more than anything is in the kids. Your children are there. 3-on-3 basketball. All your kids are up there helping us put the basketball hoops up, take them down, put water in them if we need to. Somebody tries to. Oh wait, we got to put water in all this stuff. Somebody get a hose.
Yeah.
But
and it was Ian.
And so we do that. And you see it in our children, my kids are more than willing to volunteer because they know dad's up there doing it.
Yep.
Hey, if I want to spend time with dad, I better go up and we better water some flowers or we better do this because that's what he's going to be doing after work. And, that's where it's at. And, the people are amazing. All you all out there that are honking on Main Street and doing the attaboys, believe me, it's right here. I feel it in my heart. Thank you very much. It's not necessary for you to do that. It is appreciated. But when you think about next time you think about hitting that horn or giving that attaboy, think about, wonder what I can do. Where do I fit in this? Because you do fit in. There is a spot for you.
For everyone.
It may be simple as putting out, 100 chairs or picking them up.
Yeah, but that stuff matters.
Literally, we set up these auctions, and I'm sure some people come in them and come to the deal, and they think, "Oh, look at all the work." And there is a ton of work to get the auction. Don't get me wrong, Cheyenne, my mother, Marcia, Donna, these people have put in tireless hours to get ready for that auction. But when you see the big picture, is what you see is when you walk in. So you see all these tables decorated, and you've got to be thinking, "Man, this is huge." We break that thing down in 30 minutes and we're home.
Yep.
We take everything down. We spend more time talking about how it was after we get everything broke down than we do breaking it down. So it's not as big a deal because, what do they say? Many hands make light work.
There you go.
That's what it is. Something like the flowers, it's a personal deal. It's just one person. You don't need a bunch of people to do it. You just need two. You need somebody to drive and somebody to run the water hose.
But like you said, when many hands make light work, you may feel like that's so insignificant, but just for the fact that you're showing up to help with those little bitty things makes those people that are willing to be more in charge, they're now more excited and willing to grow it, to do more things, to do bigger things, because they know they're going to have a little bit of help. Somebody's going to show up and carry some of the weight for them rather than it'd be a complete stressful experience the day of.
Well, Main Street, when we first started out, I mean, literally all we had was the design committee. I mean, there was all kinds of committees, but really when you started out, it was like, okay, how do we make things look a little better? You know, and not just, sometimes they were little band-aids, but most of the time it was big stuff. When we painted the rail up there, you know, and you put up the signs, what a huge difference that made.
But you can really notice it.
Or
And then they put those lights in.
Yeah,
they're
that's
there, but getting them on and refurbished.
that was huge. You don't know how many people commented on those lights.
Wow.
They loved that. And, you know, as far as like window washing, you know, we had a window washing crew that we do twice a year. And I'm sure that the design committee still does it. You know, they go around and wash the windows. It's not the best window washing you're ever going to get, but it's the freest one you're ever going to get.
Free.
You know, and just simple stuff like, you know, it's been a couple years now, and we'll probably try to do it again. Mark Finney, you know, a few of the lawn care guys around town, we got our backpack blowers, and we started at this end, and we blew all the way down and got the trash out. And, you know, it was a time when everybody was super busy, and we needed to get it done before Summerfest.
Well, and I think the majority, I feel like the majority of people online, I don't know, it's like their expectations is the city and the city workers to do all of this stuff. But the city has a lot of things they have to take care of that aren't, you know, cleaning and sweeping and organizing flowers and little events. So that's why these organizations are so key.
Well, I'll say this, and I've said it in a smaller forum before, and hopefully this reaches a few more people than that. Our city workers are probably some of our best volunteers.
Yeah.
I mean, they're behind the scenes, you know, Bernie, McClary, you know, I wish I could name every one of you guys, because I know that you're out there. Norman, Chris Norman, these guys behind the scenes are the ones that we have to call, us volunteers, when we need something. I mean, just like, was it a couple years ago at the auction, we had, the water pipes busted, and we could, and what did the city workers do? They brought bottles of water. They brought a pallet load of bottles of water to our auction in order for us to, you know, for them to make drinks, for everybody to have water and stuff like that. I mean, and if we're downtown and we need water, just like watering the flowers, the city fills up my water every single night. You know, that's 35 gallons every single night that the city is donating, you know, and they fill my barrel up before I go. And, you know, there's just little things like that if those city workers weren't there to volunteer, we couldn't do our volunteer job.
Right. And they don't get credit a lot of times because I think people have the assumption that, well, that's just their job. They're supposed to do that. But they go way above and beyond on the job.
I don't think that some of the stuff that they're doing is in the job description.
Right.
Yeah. And some of the stuff that they're doing, they may have to do off the clock because we need them off the clock, you know?
Yeah.
You know?
And they do. I've seen them at odd hours, being here at weird hours, you know, working late or being here super early in the morning. I see workers digging holes and getting stuff ready for events and doing things that are not in their job duty. I'm sure.
I'm just wondering, the one thing that I haven't seen it so much this year, but you guys out there on the water department, maybe you can help me explain this. Why do water breaks only happen on Friday at like 8:00 at night? I'm so sorry. That's when we always break our water pipes around here. These guys are always out with the lights on, you know, and all that stuff. And I noticed the other day they had the street sweeper out, and they were, you know, going around cleaning our streets, and you know, and that is part of their job. They do get paid for that. But you know what? We got a lot of people walking downtown. You guys see a weed sticking out? I'm not trying to tell you what to do. You do whatever you want. But before you go on Facebook and post it looks like crap, bend down and pick that weed up and throw it in one of the mini trash cans that are uptown. Yeah. You know, that's a better solution. Yep. Because that's what it took back in the day. You know, when I grew up, my grandma Emily was volunteering around here, and, you know, there was so many people that were volunteering. I mean, when there was you know, I went through I think it was the Quasqua Centennial when I was pretty young. Wow. And it was amazing. I remember at the time, all the stuff that was going on, just like the Centennial we had a few years ago, all the stuff going on, and all these people, the prices, you know, couches, you know, my family, the Thudiums, you know, Cleveland's, I mean, just so many names. I can't name them all that were all vested
Yeah.
involved, because we are invested. This is where we live.
Yep.
You don't let dishes pile up in your sink because you live there and you don't want bugs flying around.
Right.
I mean, they pile up a little bit.
Right, of course.
Yeah, and and my dishwasher's small. She's no, sorry, honey. You know how to throw one in there.
Oh.
But I'll talk about that a little bit too. That is one of my driving forces is my family, and it goes way back. I know that my every time I water those flowers, my grandma and my grandpas, that were here, before me, that are gone now, are smiling upon me, saying, pushing me forward,
Yeah.
propelling me forward. And my mom, who's done amazing stuff. My Uncle Bill, my Aunt Shane, my dad, the Cleveland family, which I'm a part of now, big volunteers, back in their day, whether it was monetary or whether it was physical volunteer work. And it goes clear down to my wife. My wife, she don't get mad at me for volunteering. It's not like you're not home.
Yeah.
It's that she understands that we all play a part here. She's not from Brookfield, she's from Chillicothe, but she's taken on Brookfield. It's home for her now.
Yeah.
And she volunteers as well. And, and we're trying to push that forward to our kids, but they're doing it. I mean, I don't have to tell them.
Yeah.
I don't have to say, hey, Sydney, would you help out? She'll just be there.
They just
Or
know they
Lane,
should, yeah.
Lane, he'll just be there. Are they there all the time? Colin, you help me hang up flowers. I mean, and these are busy people. These are kids with families,
Right.
now. And I got 3 grandkids now, which is unbelievable that that's possible. I have Zeke and Sophia, and Sydney has Haven.
Wow.
And she just moved back to take care of my grandma out at Markham Estates, which is awesome. My grandma's 90 years old now.
Wow.
Oh, at 38. I'm sorry, Grandma. 38.
Yeah.
But she's helping out there, and she's got another one on the way.
Wow.
So I'm gonna have 4 grandkids, man. It's insane. And my kids are out there doing, despite all efforts to mess them up, because I had an addiction in one way or the other for 27 years, and it's something I would like to touch on just a little bit, just so we're here and you guys can get a better understanding of those people out there that are still battling in their active addiction. You saw me walking around town at some point with a backpack on my back, and I wasn't doing no good for this town. We all did. And, through my higher power, I have overcome that. And, with help from the peers in a 12-step program that I'm in, that I'm religious to, I go there, and I try to help out, and try to do that. And that's where service work came in. These people are struggling, they're struggling. Not all of it's nefarious, and not all of it's as insane as you might think it is. This treatment court program that we have in our area is helping people. Now, the recidivism rate's still high. Addiction's not something that's easy to overcome.
Right.
It's a struggle every single day. And we have that in Brookfield. We don't have a ton of it, but we have our fair share, just like any other town. And these are important programs. I want to give a shout out to the treatment court program. It's an anonymous deal, so I'm not going to name any names on anybody, but probation and parole, the court system here is doing God's work, and the counselors out at the plaza are doing an amazing job. And I know that we're tough. I know we're tough to deal with, guys. And I hope you're seeing this, and I hope you get the credit you deserve, because you saved my life, and you're saving others. And once they get through the treatment program, then it's time for, once they get through the treatment program and they've done that, then it's time for the town to step up, and if these people are willing to get involved, then we stick with them, and we give them that strength that they need to carry on, because they're the most, you want to talk about entrepreneur type people. Unfortunately, there's a lot of them wrapped up in addiction. I don't know what it is and why that is. Maybe they feel different, maybe it's just something different, but some of the most the most talented people
Uh-huh.
I've ever met in my life were addicts. And, a lot of them are still out there. Some of them are still in their active addiction. Of course, I don't talk to them anymore. I wish I did. I still love them and care about them, but I just can't. It's not somewhere I can go because my battle is uphill and I need to keep going forward. And, with we can overcome all these things in this small town. There's nothing to bitch about in Brookfield.
Mhm.
There's nothing to complain about in Brookfield because we can take care of it.
Yeah.
This is not, I can't, we can.
Yeah.
That's the way it works.
It is we, it's never, you should never say they or them. It is us and we have to make a difference. And I think, as you stated there, for an individual like that has battled addiction, it's really important that if they've shown that initiative to make those changes and put in that work, as a whole, we have to make sure they have a second chance and can contribute and help lead them in how to contribute.
Because we have a big, you see it a lot. It's more prevalent in the cities because you see these huge monstrosities of houses, and then you see these little, communities that are just struggling crud every year, and just aren't, houses aren't taken care of, all that. Well, we have a big divide in Brookfield. We have a it's not as dramatic to see, but we have a divide, financially in Brookfield, and these people, some of these folks, are out there, doing their best, and it's just we gotta be there to help them. You can give them no handouts,
Right?
Ain't nobody want no handouts. The 12-step program I'm a part of, handouts ain't in it. I've read the whole book and I never seen a handout in there, So you got to work for everything that you want, but we can be there with a compassionate ear.
Wow, yeah.
And a shoulder to cry on and that kind of thing, and that's important, and just to listen, This is I see my addiction just like somebody who has diabetes. Without working on it, with somebody with diabetes, without their medication, they will die. Without me working on my addiction, I'll die. I mean, it's a progressive illness. If I go back, it'll be, I'm scared at this point in my life because if I go back, I don't think I got another relapse in me. I'll go and never come back. And that's scary stuff to me. So I continue to work forward, and I know that they feel the same way. And sometimes they feel trapped, because when I got out of jail, I did a short, I did some jail time, got in trouble, and none of my stuff was huge stuff. It's just that, and thank God for the court system here in Lynn County. They gave me a lot of chances, and I do appreciate that. But when enough was enough, when they'd seen me enough, they knew what to do with me. And it was time for some punishment, and, once I did that and I got back out, I'd been in my active addiction for 27 years, in one way or the other. I didn't know how to live like I'm living now.
Right.
What was familiar and comfortable for me was to go back to where I was because I knew how to survive there. It's fight or flight type deal.
Man, we seek comfort.
Yeah.
In anything, whatever's easiest. It's like going to fast food. Well, it's easy. It's comfort. That is
no dishes.
So yeah. Well, yeah. Avoid that pile. But comfort is such a scary and horrible thing to pursue because it will make you complacent and make you choose bad things, and there's no forward progress there. You're just settling into old ways. And
going back to that dishes thing, I don't think I finished that up. You ain't gonna let the dishes pile up in your house. Don't let them pile up on our sidewalks.
Right.
I know that it's if you see something, stop and pick it up. I mean, it's common for me to, I'm not tooting my own horn, but I'm just telling you what I do. If I see something probably in the middle of the road, you better get ready to stop for me because I'm probably going to stop and get out and pick it up.
Yeah.
I'm going to pile it in my truck, which looks terrible, but whatever, it's not on the streets. And that's the main thing because it's got to be there for the next generation.
Yep.
That pride, blue pride, that's the pride of Brookfield. I mean, that's what it is.
So true. I think investing in your family and helping them see you volunteering and making a difference, that is critical for everyone. And we should all be trying to show our kids ways they can contribute to, be of service to the community, other organizations, other families, other friends. It's huge.
And you can be in service just by shopping local.
Yeah.
I mean, call that service. I mean, if you want, call it service, make sure the things that you're going to buy are going to be here. I used to say, and it's probably a stupid comment, but back when a few years ago, we were talking about gas prices getting really out of control. And I'm talking about 10 or 15 years ago. And I said at the time, I had an idea. I was like, I wish gas would go to $9 a gallon. And everybody's like, what are you talking about? And I said, you know what? If it goes to $9 a gallon, nobody will be able to drive to Kansas City to buy shoes. That was before the internet. And, we can now order it straight to our house. But, the shoe stores have come back. Because I remember, the Shoe Tree, the Cherry Baker and Pat Cleveland had up here, and little Lemon Twist and Bread-O Pizza and things like that. Well, they're coming back now. They're just got different names.
Yeah, and people don't realize that when you invest in your community through those small businesses are the ones that are going to invest back into the community through school organizations and your kids' ball team and the local chapter of whatever organization. That's where those donations come from a lot of times, or those businesses that you chose to shop at or pay for services.
Yeah, and and I'm sure we have a lot of entrepreneurs out there, people with ideas that are thinking, how do I get this done? Well, there's a couple different ways you can get it done. You can inherit a bunch of money and then pile it into something, which has not been my my deal. Or you can just start small.
Yeah,
you can just start small, and we are fortunate in town. I wish things were easier for small businesses in order to get loans, but we do have local banks here. We do have banks that will give you money.
Huge.
And that's huge.
Yeah. So I've been doing this a long time, and
Not give you money, loan
right,
you
yeah,
money.
You got to pay it back.
Yeah, you got it. Yeah.
But I've been doing this a long time, and I've been fortunate enough to speak at a few different places about being an entrepreneur and how to go about that. And a lot of the times, something that's brought up is how to use a donation from your grandparent or money on a CD. And I've always got to jump in and be like, those are great methods and great things to do, and
It would be awesome.
I'm happy for everyone that has that opportunity. But some of us, we just have to start with nothing. And that is something that you can do. You can bootstrap it, and you can start small. You just have to have a plan in place so that you can intelligently bolt pieces onto your business. So you start out with your small idea. What can you do yourself? What can you outsource and still be cost efficient? And then how do you build that up so you can bolt on the next piece of your business? And it takes time, but you can do it. Anyone can start from zero and go.
And don't get in a hurry.
Yeah, and
just like my business right now. And I could use another example too. And I tell you what, I will use another example. I'll use my wife's business. My wife cleans houses for a living, and she cleans a lot of them. Man, she works her tail off. But that started with one house, and then, she just keeps adding to it. And now Kendra, my stepdaughter, she cleans houses too. And, they just keep working at it. And that's one way to get there.
Yeah.
You can just keep working, even if you don't have this huge business model where I'm going to end up cleaning ductworks and doing this and doing that. She is where she's at now. She's probably maxed out. I'm sure she's maxed out, actually. I'm like that with my lawn care business. Right now, I could try to do all this grandiose stuff. I could try to get all these employees, and I could go try to do all these cemeteries and all these big commercial properties. But 5 years ago, one person gave me an opportunity to mow their grass, and that person's still with me today. And, that it's important. So right now I'm kind of maxed out where I'm at. Yeah. Now I'm working on this other stuff, I'm thinking about these other stuffs, but I don't have to get in a hurry about it. My bills are paid, I'm taking care of the stuff I need to take care of. So, I don't have to get crazy with it. I I started small. I can stay small for a while, and then we'll grow out of it, because, I'm not going to be able to mow myself forever.
Not forever.
I would like to continue to see Blue Pride Lawn Care go further, and that, and I have a great employee. That's another thing. Partners out there and employees out there are important, and I know mostly, you're all family pretty much, and you, and that's that's the best way if you can do that. But when you need an
Well-
employee, don't just go out there and settle, and pay them. Pay them.
Right.
Pay them. If you're not taking home as much as you think you need to be taking home, then you're probably paying them enough. You're probably paying them where they need to be. Do I wish I could just get by with, paying a little bit, and that would be great. I'd be able to take more home, but
Yeah, people. Well, real quick, I want to say you talked about local banks. There are some awesome local banks in the area. I've done work with all of them. They're all fantastic people. I've worked personally with Barrymore and Regional, and they have both helped me in different times in my life. And the small town bank is really cool because when you go in and talk to one of those loan officers, usually they know you.
you're
they
talking
know
to
your
a
family.
friend.
Yeah, and they do want to help you.
Mhm.
They want to help you, and they want to help you make good decisions.
Mhm.
They don't want to just strap you into something that you're not going to be able to deal with and handle. They want to say, okay, this is what you want. Here's the best path to get there. And then, you were, driving on about the employees, and something that people don't talk about when you are an entrepreneur is growth and how to grow, because it can be difficult. And especially if you are an entrepreneur and you're trying to do everything, and that is the main income source for your family, because you can't grow as fast as you want to because you've got bills to pay and you've got, a ton of things going on. So choosing the right employees, paying them what they're worth, because those employees will then put that same sort of importance and devotion into your business. And
That makes
that's huge.
It's huge. It's huge. And to get, and that, with the banks around, the banks around town are a lot like everybody around this town. Is if you're out there and you think you've done too much or you've hurt too many, this town, Brookfield, I don't know about every other town, because this is where I'm from. They're forgiving.
Yeah.
They are forgiving. They don't forget, but they forgive, and they give you another chance.
Mm-hmm.
This is a town of second chances, and we're on that second chance right now. And and so far we're making the best of it. Things are getting better. And, I can't, these businesses downtown are just, you guys amaze me, because it just, you just keep adding, keep building, keep doing more. It's just, and some of them were just an idea.
Mm-hmm.
Every one of them was just an idea that somebody decided, okay, well, I'm going to do this. And, I bet you there's not one business downtown that's any of the new business downtown that when they were painting their front or changing their facade or doing this, that half the people walked by and went, it's not
Right.
going to work in Brookfield.
Yes.
That's not going to work here.
Yep.
And you know what? It just keeps working.
Yeah. The shining example of that is I've been at the Pigskin since its inception. Okay. I was there when the bar first opened that first day. DJ'd there for a decade.
Mm-hmm.
And I know when and I don't know if Michael would talk about it, but when he had the idea of making that change to doing the pizza, there was so much negativity around that. We already have all these pizza places. It's not going to work. Those are things that just I heard, so I know it had to be amplified in his ear. But that is an example of someone who had an idea and really ran with it.
Mm-hmm. Well, one of my best friends, Scott Collins, we were just having this conversation. I mean, well, let's see. Scott killed his turkey Saturday morning, so maybe Saturday morning around 7:00, we were having this conversation about Mike, and because Mike is a example of doing. Mike, you don't go into Mike's and see this monster menu
Right.
that's got all this stuff on there. Mike knows what he does well
Mm-hmm.
and sticks with it.
Yep.
He don't get outside his box. He does, what he does well. That's what I do.
Mm-hmm.
I mow grass. I do it well. I stay inside that box. Somebody asked me about landscaping. I tell them I don't do landscaping. I mow grass. That's what I do. And you know what? In a small town, there's room for us to do that.
Mm-hmm.
You can specialize in that way, and that's great that we can do that. And he does a great job over there.
Yeah.
Has, forever. I knew he was going to make it over there because at that time I was spending a couple $100 a night in there drinking. But I figured he's got to be making some money somewhere.
Yeah. It's cool to see. I'm kind of fortunate to be on the same street here, and people will come from all over just to Eat at the pigskin.
Well, I got a daughter that works over there too.
Yeah.
Lexi works over there, and she loves working over there. And it's good to see. I guess Mike's going to expand over Chillicothe.
Yeah, I don't have all the details of that.
I don't
but
either.
They are going to have a pigskin.
They had the
from my
they had
understanding.
the Facebook reveal, so I
Mhm.
saw that much, which that's exciting.
Yeah.
I almost it's exciting, but at the same time, I almost don't want to share the pigskin with anybody else.
It's ours.
You know, I don't. You know, it's not. I spread my wealth around Brookfield, eat lunch down. I'm getting old, man. Eat lunch down Elm Street. You know, hit these places
Yeah.
on the weekend. You know, but yeah, it's amazing to see what some of these people are doing, and that's Mike's plan is a good plan. Yeah, that's just do what you do and do it the best you can do it.
Yep.
You know, and he made it simple where we can have these kids in there doing it,
Mm-hmm.
and they do a great job. I'm like Cole Collins over there, man. He'll make me some wings and come out and say, "How are them wings, man?
Yeah.
How are them wings?" He
Yeah.
knows I'm not telling. He
He's
knows I'm
a-
not telling the truth. If they was good, they were good. If they weren't,
He's gonna hear about it.
yeah, he's gonna hear about it.
Good stuff.
Yeah, and the one thing, go back to the family, and I know you have a great family, and I see your kids around. That's why we're here. That's why we're here, and that's why honestly, that's why I do what I do, because that's the most important thing. It's because we have to have this thing has to continue on.
Yeah.
We couldn't continue to see it go downhill, and if water and flowers make somebody happy, then it worked, right?
Mm-hmm.
If picking up that one piece of trash made Brookfield look better, then it worked. It wasn't huge. It was just that.
Well, man, I preach. I'm preachy to my kids a lot, and I tell them, make someone smile. It doesn't have to be this monumental thing in your day, but you make someone smile, and flowers can do that. A beautifully mowed lawn can do that, because that one smile can just expand, and it can hit the person next to them, and if you can change the mood of someone and they pass that on to someone else, that's how you change your community.
Meet people where they're at.
Mm.
Meet them exactly where they're at. Don't try to be above them. Don't try to be below them. Meet them right there where they're at.
Yeah.
And people enjoy that. There's an authenticity about that.
Yeah.
You're not being fake. You're just meeting them right where they're at. Don't be afraid to tell somebody they're messing up. Don't be afraid of that. But you know what? I've done a lot more in my life by telling people when they do a good job than when telling them when they did a bad.
Yeah.
And unfortunately we make mistakes and those happen, and you move on from it, and you go to the next thing. You just on that uphill journey.
Yeah. And it's just how you deliver a message is sometimes just as important as the message itself.
Mhm.
So
Or don't deliver it at all.
right. Yeah.
If it's going to be super negative and you think I can go into most conversations and know, okay, if I say this is I'm going to spur something on. Well, maybe it's not time for that.
Right.
Maybe that's time for private. Pull people aside.
There is a time for it.
There is a time for
But
it.
you got to know when that time is.
Yeah. And it's not out in the public when everybody's, out. Most of the time it's not out there in public to try to embarrass anybody. You try to lift each other up. Lift each other up in Brookfield. That's what it's about, because we got competition around here. Marceline's a heck of a nice town.
Beautiful town.
Chillicothe's a beautiful town.
Yeah, beautiful.
Meadville takes care of their stuff. Unfortunately, some of these other small towns in our county are have the same dilemma we have. And if you guys are watching this, start small.
Mm-hmm.
Start small. Start with a small group. Find somebody that's willing to do something and do it. And just like I said, we started out here and it was just design crew because that's all we could do at that point was just try to make things look a little better.
Mm-hmm.
And we got lots of work to do. We'd love to have new sidewalks.
Yeah.
We would love it, wouldn't we? It'd be great. We'd love to have Highway 11 repaved all the way up Main Street. That would be wonderful. And you know what? It's going to happen one of these days.
It's going to.
It's going to happen one of these days, probably sooner than later, and when it happens, we can sit back and we can be, we got it done. We can give each other high fives. But until then, we can't stop working.
Right. And, the town, it does seem to be expanding the other way. But it's not like you don't just forget about one end or the other, because everywhere is important. So I'm looking forward to what's in the future for Brookfield.
That's the one thing we get in trouble with Main Street sometimes is, and for you all that don't know out there, the Main Street program is a national wide program, and it's in Missouri. You have a district. So, if you see us out there working and you realize that we're only stopping at one spot, that's because that's what's mandated in our district. That's
Right.
where our downtown district is. And so that's where we do the work. We wish we could spread it all over the place, but that's not how it works. That's
Yeah.
not. And you know what? The program's working, so we're going to stick to the program.
You're right. Yeah, for sure. Ian, I really appreciate your time. I hope you're willing to come back on again.
I will be.
I just want to keep this going. I think there's so many good things that can come from just talking about it, and getting it out there and getting the word out. So, anything final message?
I don't know about a final message. Just keep working hard out there, guys. I know that there's a lot of people. Just remember, all politics are local. All politics are local. If you want to get something done, we have to start here before it goes any further. We can watch TV and we can get all fired up and we can get on our sides and we can stand on our sides of the fence and yell at each other. And that's all good and well, but we have to take care of Brookfield first.
Yeah.
And, because this is where the dishes are piling up. This is where we got to clean them.
You're right.
So as long as we got the water coming in, we should be able to take care of this. And, and Nathan, I appreciate this forum. I think it's a great forum to get the word out to the people about the small businesses downtown. There's so many amazing ones. I think we just had a new one open this last week. Didn't Bowerman just open up his little tackle shop down there?
Hooked on Hunting.
Hooked on Hunting Outdoors.
It's a beautiful place. He's remodeled that whole front end of that building. He's got the live bait in there and all the fishing gear, hunting gear is to come.
What a wonderful family, the Bowerman family.
Yeah.
They've been around for a long time. I think my mom and Doug have been together for over 20 years now. And the Bowermans started, coming out and doing hay with Doug back when the older girls that are gone from here now were out there
Really?
operating tractors barefoot. I mean, these girls
Wow.
can fix a baler faster than any man that I know. And, for them to be the entrepreneurs that they are with the girls down there on the other end with Susie
Right.
Hughes and Josh and Samuel has his, his deal with his cattle up north and his dad buying
Daniel has the
Hilltop Processing.
Hilltop Processing.
Yeah. Daniel, there's one right there. That guy, he's something else. But what a great family. That's what Brookfield's about.
Yep.
Family, acceptance, and a willingness.
Great example. Great example.
Yeah. Willingness to go out there and try something new. Stick your neck out.
You got to be willing.
Gotta be willing.
Well, thank you so much, Ian.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate you.